baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome in On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. As always, thank you so much for checking out the channel. I do appreciate it. While you're here, do me a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck. And of course, with the Atlanta Braves, I know we have a World Series going on. I get it. The Phillies and the Astros, they're going at it. No hitter in the World Series last night. Only the second time in history that's happened. Very big deal. But today we're going to stay focused on the Atlanta Braves. The offseason is here. We've been talking about it for a while. We're going to stay on it. The last video we did was on pretty much the same topic. You ought to go check out that video at whether or not Dansby will or will not be returning to Atlanta. That video is a good one. I really suggest that you go check it out. Today, though, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. It's hard to say whether or not Swanson's going to come back, right? Everybody has an opinion on that. Everybody has a thought about, well, he's from here, the Braves want him back, you know, the Braves don't want him back. Everybody has a thought about whether or not Dansby's coming back. I'm not going to change your mind. You're not going to change mine. I told you in that video that I'm about 50-50, maybe with a slight edge towards him returning. I think it makes sense for both sides that Dansby Swanson returns. But we've seen before that that doesn't always make it a given that a player will be returning. So today what we're going to do instead, we're not talking about whether or not Swanson is coming back. We're going to play a little bit of general manager today. We're going to be Alex Anthopoulos. Under the presumption that Swanson was to elect to go elsewhere or was out of the picture for the Braves, just consider that. Ends up going elsewhere. What should the Braves do in response? You know the title. You're down there reading it. And I'm sure some of you are going, come on, Tyler, this is crazy. You know, this is insane, the idea that the Braves could go get Trea Turner. I get it. Why would, and you're probably also wondering, why would Swanson not return, right? That's a big question mark. Tyler, why on earth wouldn't he return? I'm just saying it's a possibility. I told you I'm out of 50-50. We're going with the latter 50. Let's see what happens if Swanson doesn't come back. I think Trea Turner is not only the number one target for the Braves under those circumstances, I think Trea Turner is the number one shortstop that any team is looking for. I don't think it's just the Braves. I think if you're any team that's down a shortstop right now, your number one target is Trea Turner. That being said, remember also, a lot of people are going to ask me, Tyler, you're getting ahead of yourself. This hasn't even happened yet. Okay. I didn't get ahead of myself last year. Remember, Freeman wasn't even on another team yet before the Braves went out and got Matt Olson last year. Just keep that in mind. I think the Braves could do something similar based on the way things are going in this scenario. And it's early, but the next option to me is obvious. It's Trea Turner, right? If you remember the Ron Washington interview I did, which was pretty good, by the way. If you haven't seen it, you ought to go check it out. The Ron Washington video that I did, not only did we talk to Wash about his career, I spoke to him about Matt Olson. Reason being, he knew Matt Olson when he was younger, right? So I asked him, how was it seeing Matt again? And he had a quote that stuck with me, and it was, look, if you can't have Freddie Freeman, then Matt Olson is who you want. If you can't have Dansby Swanson in this case, Trea Turner's who you want. That's the way I feel about this. Now, it's easy to see why everybody would want Trea Turner. He's a five-tool player. He's a great player. He's got 8 years in the league. He's only 29 years old. He's a veteran, but not too old, not unproductive. Career .302 hitter in 2021. He led the league in hits, stolen bases, batting average, and total bases. We're all very familiar with the talents of Trea Turner. I don't have to sit here and tell you how good of a player he is. You watched him in Washington against us. You know what he can do. And he had a great year with the Dodgers in 2021. He signed a one-year deal after that for 2022, stayed there. But it's been pointed out lately by John Heyman that Trea Turner might prefer an East Coast team. That's kind of why this has been driven. You've probably seen other articles talk about it, so I felt like I kind of had to. But this is something I think could potentially happen if Swanson doesn't work out. He says he prefers a team on the East Coast. He went to high school in Florida. He was upset initially to be traded to the West Coast to the Dodgers. So that is something to be considered. But he is thriving on the field and now back at shortstop after being at second base for the year prior. So, look, if he wants to move to the East Coast, we don't know if that's completely true. Sources close to the situation seem to think so. But if he does want to move to the East Coast, there are a few teams other than the Braves that are going to give you the chance to win. There's very few teams, and the Braves are one of them. I would say they're the leading candidate under that presumption. He made $21 million last year on a one-year contract, which, considering that the Braves are going to get a much higher payroll, they may go big here, especially if Swanson demands big money. If Swanson demands Trea Turner money, at that point, why not pay Trea Turner? That's what you have to look at it here, right? If you're the general manager, you got a business decision to make. If I'm going to pay $21 million, do I want the guy who's putting up better numbers? Or do I want the guy, who's been here a while, right? That's the way you have to look at it. So don't be surprised if the Braves make a move sooner rather than later, if they make a move sooner than expected. We've seen it before, and the Braves are also well within their right to go after another candidate. They're not, necessarily waiting on Dansby either. They did not wait on Freeman, and they don't have to. If they want to make another move to make the team better, I don't believe that's exactly their motive here. I think they'd like to bring Swanson back, but Swanson made $10 million last year. He also had a great year this year. It may not be that the Braves want to pay him quite what Swanson thinks he deserves. That hometown discount is going to have to happen. And, we're going to compare these two really quickly because I think we need to under this current, look here. I think this, right? I look at what they did last year. This is last year. Free agent comparison from the 2022 season. You look at Dansby, $10 million. You look at Trea Turner, $21 million. And then I look at the stats. And based on this graphic alone, it seems that Turner had the better year. But keep in mind also that Swanson did have Turner beat in wins above replacement by almost a game, but they're visually similar players. They both play really good defense. Obviously, Dansby had a Gold Glove this year, and Dansby at the plate has been great. He was clutch in a lot of big moments. Of course, we all remember the Mets series. And for me, I look at it and say, what's the temptation, right? And Turner made $21 million this season in Los Angeles. Swanson made $10 million in Atlanta. You think even if Dansby's at $15 million, you think Dansby's the obvious candidate. And, I think after this year, a lot of people go, well, maybe those two players deserve a similar price tag. Maybe, $18 million for Dansby, right? I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that based on these numbers alone. However, also remember Turner is being paid for what he has done before, what he has proven he can do. And that's really what I want to focus on here for a second. It's not just 2022. You have to look at the complete product. You have to look at the career numbers. And frankly, Turner has a better average by a lot. He has more homers in more years, to be fair. This isn't a power hitting, comparison here. 355 on base compared to 320, 487 slug compared to 417. And sure, Dansby gets better every year. We talked about that in the last video. And that's completely fair. Dansby gets better every year. You look at his WAR, it is a linear chart. And I look at this and I say, well, I also look at it and I say, well, Turner also had a down year by comparison. You're talking about 4 consecutive seasons of 320 average or better the past few years. Of course, 2021 we just talked about, leading in multiple categories. But 4 consecutive seasons with 320 or better. He finishes this year at 298. That's below standard for Trea Turner. And you got to consider the fact, well, maybe if he moves towards the East Coast, maybe that improves. If he gets around a better culture, and we all know the Braves are real big on their culture, maybe it improves. Regardless, it doesn't really matter. Turner is the complete opposite of Swanson in some regards, because Swanson is having the best year of his life while Turner's having a down year. And that's the way you have to look at this. Is Swanson going to continue to grow? Is he going to continue to be better? Is he going to be the player he was this year? Or is this the peak and we're about to hit a valley? And that's really what the Braves have to come to. That's what they have to decide. Turner has Swanson beat career numbers wise, no doubt about it. I mean, Turner's been in the league longer. He's had more opportunities. He's been on great teams. Swanson hasn't always been that. He hasn't always been on a great team. But for me, personally, I think Trea Turner will more than likely set the market for shortstops this year. Everybody else's contract is going to be based off, well, Turner made this, and I put up these numbers, so I should make X, right? And that isn't an exact science, if we're honest. I mean, assuming that that's true, the Braves would probably have to get Turner prior to anyone else signing Swanson. I don't believe anyone else signed Swanson before Turner is off the market. I don't think a team that needs a shortstop is going to say, let's go get Swanson and not talk to Trea Turner first. I just don't think that's the case. Hence why I think Trea Turner will be signed first. So for Trea Turner to go to the Braves have to be aggressive in going after Trea Turner. And for that to happen, it may come back to bite you in later talks with Swanson if you're Atlanta, because at that point you've moved on from that shortstop. And look, if they don't land Turner, then Swanson is the obvious choice. If they don't land Swanson, Turner would be the obvious choice. Whatever the case may be, there's a lot of different ways this can go. We're not at the negotiating table. But I don't think the Braves are going to be left in the dust here. I don't think they're going to be left to figure it out. I think the Braves are going to be aggressive. And we saw this play out last year. Alex Anthopoulos is not going to sit and wait for someone to sign to the Braves. You know, I know that Dansby was on 680 The Fan the other day and spoke about, well, you know, I know that we got to do this and that. But guys, time's ticking. The longer it goes, the more we question. You remember the Freeman ordeal where every day it's like, is it going to be today? Is he going to sign today? Is this going to happen? And then all of a sudden, boom, it shocked Freddie Freeman. It was done. Matt Olson to Atlanta, you know, and that ruined any chance of anything happening for Freddie Freeman coming back to Atlanta. So don't be surprised if a similar situation was to happen. As much as we all love Dansby Swanson, and trust me, we're big fans of him at On Deck. He gave us an interview. I like Dansby. I really do. However, it's business. And, you know, the Braves obviously adored Freddie Freeman. For them to make that move was surprising. I just wouldn't be as surprised to see this. That all being said, I think it makes sense for Dansby to be back. I do. I think having some kind of continuity year to year is a good thing. And I think that we want to keep players. I think, you know, Alex Anthopoulos wants to keep players. But you can't tell me, after the Braves extended Riley, Albies, Acuna, Strider, and Harris, all in recent years, that they didn't look at the guy who's been here since 2016 and go, I think we should extend him. I think they've tried. I think there hasn't been an agreement made. You can't tell me that after you extended Strider, who, with all credit due, has been here for a blip of a second, after that, you cannot tell me that the Braves have not tried to extend the sheriff, Dansby Swanson. You can't tell me that. So I tend to look at Swanson and wonder what's the holdup, you know, in a way, because look, we've heard it before. If you want to be here, right? If you want to be a Brave, be a Brave. So in the outside possibility that Swanson signs to another team, let's just throw it out there, Turner is the obvious choice. I think the Braves are really going to have to open their wallets and go get Turner. And that's not something they want to do. If they wait around until Swanson is gone and Turner is still on the market, they have wasted an opportunity to sign Turner earlier and maybe for less money. And that's really what you have to look at. I think Turner's going to get paid. He's going to get a nice check. I think Swanson's going to get a nice check. I think Bogarts is likely going to get a pretty good check. We all know Correa's going to get one. So the market is a little bit oversaturated with shortstops at the moment, right? It's got a lot of good shortstops in it. I mean, I just mentioned 4 of them. And I look at it and I say, look, there's room for the Braves to improve statistically, right? And a lot of people are going to point to that. That's why a lot of people want Turner, is that, yes, you would improve statistically. No doubt about it. Year to year, Turner has been a better player than Dansby Swanson. He's a better player in general. Obviously, the speed comes into play. I mean, you're talking about literally a 5-tool player. Compared to Swanson, Swanson's a great player. He's not quite who Turner is. Not year to year. This year, yes. Not every year. And that's really what the question is. Is this a turning of the page for Swanson? Is he going to be what he was this year going forward? Or is he going to get paid and not be that guy anymore? That's what a lot of people are wondering. So if a player or an agent, I want you to think about this for a second, because this is the predicament that the Braves are finding themselves in. If a player and his agent think that this team needs me, right, they're going to demand more money. We all know how Scott Boras works. They're going to demand more money because that team needs them. It's basic negotiating, right? Freddie Freeman last year, and I hate to keep bringing him up, but Freddie Freeman last year, captain pretty much of the Braves for years, you know, the guy, you know, he assumed that the Braves needed him. He assumed that the Braves would not have another option, right? Let's just be real about it. that was the case. And I look, if that's the case, then you might have overplayed your hand a bit. And it happened last year. I just wouldn't be completely taken by surprise this year. Now again, it's not like Swanson and Turner are the only options out there either. There are plenty of, like I said, Correa is out there, Bogarts is out there. We may talk about them in another video. The reason I chose to focus on Swanson and Turner today is simply because, well, Swanson is Swanson, and Turner is the number one overall candidate for a shortstop this year, and that's who everybody's talking about. That's why I chose to focus on him today. But there are other options out there. We'll talk about them at another point. But like I said in the last video, and I firmly believe that Swanson will be back on the Braves. Well, I say firmly believe. If you gave me a yes or a no in between, I'd say yes. Because of the history, because of where he's from, because of, frankly, where the Braves are at right now in the championship drive, where, Dansby is at, and how successful he's been this year with the Braves, the leadership role he's taken. It all makes sense for Dansby to come back to the Braves. I think we're all pretty aware of that. But there is that no option. There is that. And if you gave me yes or no, I'm going yes. But I'm pretty much in the middle. I'm in the middle of the camp. I don't know. None of us do. None of us do. Alex Anthopoulos does not know right now if Dansby Swanson is coming back. He really doesn't. There is nothing contractually holding Dansby Swanson to the Atlanta Braves at this moment. There is nothing. I think he wants to be back. I think the Braves want him to be back. But much like Yusuke Knight just put in the comments section, we will have to see what happens. And, that's kind of where everybody's at. We just have to see how it plays out. And, I think uncertainty for both parties can lead to decisions that otherwise wouldn't be made. If the Braves are a little bit uncertain that Dansby's not coming back, they may make a move. If Dansby's a little uncertain that the Braves aren't going to pay up, then he may make a move to another team earlier than expected. It's all about who cracks first. And, for you Dansby Swanson fans out there, I wish the best for you. I would love to see Dansby make his return to Atlanta and keep the hometown kid on the team. But, we've seen it before. We've seen it play out. We'll have to see what happens this year. That is my thoughts on the idea of, obviously, Dansby Swanson, but also if the Braves could land Trea Turner. Financially speaking, by the way, yes, they could. I think that they're in a spot now where they can pretty much go big somewhere. And I think they will. I prefer them to go big on pitching and land Swanson. But, if it comes down to it, I think they very well may go big, in other categories, that being shortstop. All right, we're going to go through the comments. Remember, guys, if you do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. I really would appreciate it. Not going to be on forever tonight, but we are going to be on for a while. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. We cover the Braves all year long, not just during the season, but all year long. We try to give you some off-season content. For those of you that love baseball, even during the off-season, as do I, we try to give you some good content to talk about and give you an opportunity to have your voice heard, so make sure you get active in the comment section. Let me know what you think about Trea Turner possibly coming to the Braves. Let me know what you think about Swanson possibly not coming back to the Braves. I'd love to hear from you. And, of course, if you would please do me a favor and share this to your friends who are Braves fans, or share them to your friends that are baseball fans. We'd love to have them as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Love all the support. You guys supported us all through the season. Please continue to do so through the off season. All right, we're going to start out with Stream Elements. He says there's a bot running. I guess I appreciate the protection. Philip Moore says this will be an interesting topic. I hope you enjoyed it. I really do. Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think anytime you're talking about, a team shakeup, it can be interesting. Trades, always, I'll put it this way. Anytime I do a video about a trade, it always does well. It always gets a lot of views. Anytime you talk about stuff like that, the possibility of a trade gets people hyped up. Not even that it's happened. Just the possibility that you could trade for somebody gets people, motivated and hyped up. So this is a similar topic, and this is an interesting one. And, I think, a lot of people undersell just how exciting the offseason could be. Right? Like winter meetings is gold for folks like me. I think that this is the most exciting time for a YouTube channel because this is the time where we have time to talk about topical stuff. My channel is not really built to talk about, I don't know, like talk about like live games. I don't really, I do it some, but it's not built for that. It's built for stuff like this, talking me to you. It's baseball fans having a conversation. That's what the offseason is, right? We can talk about what happened, in the World Series, sure, but these conversations are what real people talk about, not just the guy you watch on YouTube, right? These kind of conversations, and I think they're very fun. I think they're entertaining, and I think that sometimes you strike gold and you have the right answer. Trea Turner just may be it. Let's see. Clayton McCullers says, "What's up, Tyler? It's been a while. I hope that they keep Dansby, but I'm excited to see where we end up. Look, you can't go wrong with either Dansby or Trea Turner or even Carlos Correa or Xander Bogaerts. I mean, you really can't go wrong there. I think any of them would be fine." But that being said, it has been a while. I took a little bit of R&R. I've had a wedding to go to and different things going on. But, I'm back. I'll be here pretty regular as long as something is going on in baseball. Obviously, the World Series is not really my cup of tea to watch, but I am watching it. I wish there was a team that I found that I could root for. I just can't put it to myself to root for the Phillies. And we all know about the Astros and that sort of situation. So I've been a little turned off by it. But, it's still baseball. I still watch it. But I wish the Braves were there. I think that's pretty obvious. But, we still watch it no matter what. But since that's going on, I've sort of tried to wait for the off-season content. I have a whole board written up over there, just content for you guys. I got 2 of them checked off. We just got the second one done. The first one was, is Dansby returning to Atlanta? The next one, I guess, would I'll hold off on telling you what the next one is. I may just surprise you. But thank you for tuning in, Clayton. I'm excited to see where the Braves end up as well. I think we're going to have a big off season, and I think it's going to catch some people off guard. I really do. JL says, you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond. You are, JL. I appreciate the support. Remember, JL, to also like the video. Really do appreciate you guys that already have and would appreciate the rest of you doing it as well. Also, remember to subscribe if you have not already. It does help the channel out a lot. And if you're watching this back, please listen to me. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. These do stay, these live streams do stay on the channel, so you can find them later real easily. So if you don't want to watch the entire thing right now, make sure to tune in later. But thank you guys who did tune in right now. I really do appreciate it. I know it's a little early. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's see. Robert Wilson says, the cost difference between the two will be too much without that much of a production difference. That I tend to agree with. The difference is that's the biggest question, right, Robert? Like, I look at last year, right? And if I'm given the option of these two players last year going into the 2022 season, knowing what we know now, knowing the year that they had, knowing the production value that both of them gave, and knowing the price tag on both of them, I'm obviously going Dansby Swanson because you're saving yourself $11 million, double what you're paying. I mean, Trea is not double the player Swanson is, right? I get all that. I get it. But now I look at it and I say, well, do I want... I mean, because here's the thing. Swanson's going to get paid. He's not making $10 million this year. Turner will probably make $20 million plus, no doubt about it. But Swanson is not going to make 10. He's going to make north of 15, maybe more. And I look at it and say, well, how long does he want the contract for? How big of a contract is this? There's a lot of different variables to look at. But assuming that Swanson is not going to be around, Turner's my best bet there. I don't think there's any looking around that. But yes, looking at what, to your point, yes, I think that the production value is not a $11 million difference. And I think that's the biggest problem, right, is that Swanson had a great year this year, had a phenomenal year based on the rest of his career. But I don't know that it's necessarily indicative of what the Braves are going to want to pay him over the next 5. That's kind of the problem. But great comment. JL says he would rather get Turner. Yeah, the poll was pretty divisive today. There was a poll on the community page I put out, and I thought it'd be pretty heavily favored towards Swanson. It was not. A lot of guys out there want Turner. This is not just me bringing you something. This is what I've noticed on Twitter, on Facebook. This is something that was driven, right? This is something that's gaining momentum. And I'm not saying it's the right answer, but I'm saying a lot of people are looking at this and going, well, I love Dansby Swanson, But Trea Turner's a pretty good player. I think a lot of people are looking at it right now. Let's see. Williams says he thinks that Swanson walks. Brendan says he's 50-50 right now. Caleb says, Dansby till the wheels fall off. I appreciate that. But Brandon Edwards says we need to go get Trea Turner. Blake Newsom says Trea Turner can't kill the Braves if he's on the roster, right? There's a lot of different variables when talking about stuff like this, and it's why I love it, because we can sit here and debate, but some reason anything logical might go out the window. How many of you legitimately thought that Freddie Freeman wouldn't come back after watching him say, "I've spent 17 years in this organization, however many it is. I want to be here. I want to be here. I want to be here." Seeing Alex Anthopoulos talk about, "I want Freddie. I want Freddie. I want Freddie. I want Freddie." And then all of a sudden, he's gone, right? How many of you expected that? Not me. Fooled me. So if you think that it couldn't happen in this situation, you're wrong. I mean, it could very well happen. Not to say that it will, but the chances of it are there. It does exist. Let's see. Atlanta Braves, 1983. If you've been watching since 1983, I'm proud of you. He says, Phillies and Dodgers are just two other teams that will need a shortstop. If Dansby is asking for $22 million, and you can get Turner for $28 to $30 million, more likely closer to 30, let's get Turner. Well, that's the thing. Like we've heard the Braves talk about their finances. I've obviously done a lot of talking about, their confidence in their finances. They want to be a top 5 payroll. We don't know exactly what that means. We don't know just how wide they're willing to open up their wallet. We don't know how aggressive they're going to be. We have an idea that they're going to do something, but we don't know. We don't know exactly what they want to do, right? We can assume, we can think, but we don't know. And it's hard to say. I mean, we're going to be the first ones here reacting to it if it happens. Trust me. But I look at it and I say, well, look, I would love to have Trea Turner. I would love to have Dansby Swanson. You really can't go wrong. What you can go wrong with is the price tag. That's where you can go wrong. The player doesn't, and this is going to sound terrible, the player is not going to matter in this scenario. The only thing that matters with the player itself here, obviously production value, but they're very similar players. Turner having the edge there, but locker room, right? Locker room continuity. How's it going to feel watching a guy who's been here since 2016, longer than most everybody in the club, all of a sudden just didn't get re-signed, right? Now, if Dansby elects to go elsewhere, then you might have a different story. But we all know what the reaction was when Freddie left, right? We all know. And I think that's really the biggest thing you're risking in choosing Turner over Swanson outright. But we don't know exactly how this is going to play out. Chris Kaysen says, people are now realizing how important Swanson is to the Braves organization. Huge news when Swanson figures out what team he wants to play with. Yeah, I agree. It's going to be very surprising if he doesn't come back. Very, very, very surprising if he does not return. But that does not necessarily mean that the Braves didn't want him back. That does not necessarily mean that he didn't want to be back. A lot of it's going to come down to money. And look, there is nothing wrong if Dansby Swanson decides, look, I can make $15 million more a year upstate, right? There's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Me and you were in that same situation. Be honest with yourself. You'd probably do it yourself, right? And that's the age we're living in now. That's free agency. That's what this is. That's the game of baseball today. Sports today. There's nothing wrong with it. And there's also nothing wrong if the Braves decide, you know what, Swanson, thank you for your time. Thank you for your years. Thank you for the success. Thank you for the World Series championship. Thank you for the Gold Glove you won this year. Thank you for all that. But we're going to go with another candidate, right? We're going to go with somebody else. There is nothing wrong with it. It's business. It's baseball and it's business. So I think, there is that question there, but I think ultimately it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm glad I don't have to make the decision. I'll put it that way. Oren Griswold asked a pretty good question. If not Dansby, who is our locker room leader? Well, the way I look at it, and this isn't going to be a popular answer, I don't think the Braves have a locker room leader. I don't think there is a locker room leader outside of Brian Snicker and the coaching staff. I think everybody is expected to come in, do their jobs, and if they don't, then we move on, right? look, guys, I mean, up and down the lineup, there's leaders, right? Michael Harris, a young leader. Matt Olson came in this year, obviously an outsider to the program, but he found his own. I think Ron Washington is a bit of a clubhouse leader, right? I think that there's everybody in there meshes well. I think Darno is an undersold leader, right? I mean, you look at what he does with the pitching staff. I look at the bullpen, right? I look at those veterans in the pen. Kenley Jansen, obviously this year. Years before that, Will Smith, Tyler Matzik. I think that there's a lot of guys there that don't really get mentioned that are leaders. I don't think you have to be the leader, right? Freddie was the leader because he'd been obviously the longest tenured and all that. And he was a great leader, make no mistake. But I don't think the Braves have a one leader, right? I mean, you look at the infield. You have stars across the infield. Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson, maybe Dansby Swanson. We'll see. Catcher position, Darno. Contreras is on his way up, but Darno right now. You look at the outfield, obviously young stars out there in Ronald Acuna and Michael Harris, but there's a lot of leaders that probably we don't even know about, right? That we probably don't even know how many leaders there are on that team. I don't think you can make one person the clubhouse leader, right? It's a team for a reason. How many, if you ever watched the documentary on the 2004 Boston Red Sox, right? Kevin Millar. Why not us, right? You ever seen that? That was a leader. Kurt Schilling walks out there with a bloody sock. That was a leader. David Ortiz, probably the most clutch postseason hitter ever. Leader, right? There's a lot of leaders, and that's what makes a team successful. I look back at 2021. Will Smith in the pen locks it down for the postseason. Jorge Soler comes in and has clutch moments. Freddie Freeman has clutch moments, has great moments in the postseason that year. There's so many. Max Fried. There's so many guys that are leaders, right? Like, there's obviously people that you bounce stuff off of as a team and that kind of thing. But to name one person is really tough. It's a great question, but it's really tough. I think you have to look at the entire team chemistry. And I think that's what you risk losing a guy like Swanson, is a little bit of that team chemistry. Doesn't mean you can't get it back, but you do risk it a little bit. No doubt about it. Let's see. Brandon Edwards says, Blooper may be dropping hits on Twitter. If you haven't seen Blooper's Twitter, you ought to go check it out. It's pretty funny. He's been making hints that the Braves may go get Trea Turner, which is it's pretty interesting. Even if it doesn't happen, it's pretty interesting. Let's see. Captain Spartan, why do we have to worry about potentially being interested in Swanson? I don't really keep up with other teams and their needs. I assume you're asking, why do we have to worry about other teams potentially being interested in Swanson? Here's how I view it, right? You have to keep an eye on the market. I mean, that's with anything. You have to see, okay, what do other teams want? If I wanted to make a trade, I need to know, okay, what team needs two catchers? What team needs a pitcher? What team needs a lefty, right? Like, I'd have to know that. And I think that's kind of why I'm talking about this now is, like, other teams need shortstops. There's not just the Braves that need a shortstop. So those 4 shortstops are all going somewhere. And that does oversaturate the market. It gives, number one, it gives teams options. So the Braves have 4 really good options at shortstop, 3 if Swanson doesn't work out. So there's a lot that I think you can learn by just looking at the market, seeing who's a free agent, seeing what other teams have and what other teams are doing. William brings up a pretty interesting point, one that I have not thought about. Swanson is getting married on December 10th. He's got a lot on his plate. Double A should not wait on him. Make him an offer and move to other situations. That is the other thing. And aside from him getting married for a second, congrats, by the way, Dansby, if you're watching. I think this, if you get Dansby done, if you lock him up early, you can move to bigger and better things. You can move to handling your pitching staff. You can go look at Jacob deGrom. You can go look at bullpen pieces that you're interested in. But until you know a price tag on Dansby, it's probably kind of hard to know what you're playing with. And you don't want to limit yourself with Dansby. You don't want to go sign deGrom, right, to $30 million a year or $40 million a year, whatever he wants. You don't want to do something big like that and say, well, Dansby, sorry, we can only pay $16 million a year. I know you want 18, but we can only do 16. You don't want to limit yourself to that. We don't really know where the Braves' finances are. We can assume we know something, but we really don't. I just don't think that. I agree with you. I don't think Double A should wait. I think this is something that if you want Dansby, then I think you have to be active. And we all know Double A. I don't think he's sitting on his thumbs here. I think he's trying to do something. But we got to figure something out, right? And look, it's still early, guys. I mean, baseball games are still being played, right? It's not necessarily done. I look at December, and I know you mentioned December 10th. That's when he's getting married. I know you mentioned that. But winter meetings are a couple days before that, right in December. That is where a lot of this stuff gets done. That is where, people come to make deals. And that's when I expect these to be done. And it'll start popping off. We didn't really have winter meetings last year because of the lockout. We didn't really have winter meetings the year before that because of COVID. I planned to go to winter meetings a few years ago. Me and my dad both took vacation, so we still went, even though it was canceled. Flew out to Dallas and all that good stuff. But, we haven't had it for a few years. I think we've all kind of forgotten just how much it starts popping off. I mean, it's one after the other. And it's very similar to the trade deadline in that way. And it's because everybody is there to meet, to make deals get done, and they're all there for the same reason. And it's really the only time of the year that happens. So I look at it and I say, well, I don't think Double A should wait, but if you can get it done before winter meetings, get it done. But if not, once I get to winter meetings, I start looking around and say, all right, hey, Xander Bogaerts, what do you want? What can we get done here? I start getting a little bit antsy at that point if I'm Double A. Brett Walter says he loves Dansby, one of his favorite Braves of all time, but he would not pay him $30 million. I'm not in the $30 million category. You're not going to hear that from me. If Trea Turner got paid $20 million last year, Dansby Swanson should not make $30 million. I'm sorry. I would prefer to pay him less for a longer time than $30 million for 5 years. I think that is just outstandingly ridiculous. I don't know who threw in the $30 million comment, but I'm not there. Make no mistake. Again, Trea Turner, who I don't know of a better shortstop in the game right now, it made $20 million. Dansby should not make $30. I agree with you. It'd be a dumb decision. Let's see. Oh, me. JL says Braves need DeGrom and Turner. Man, you're asking a lot of Santa this year. You really are. Seth, sorry about that. Let's see. Sorry, it jumped on me. Seth, you are next, though. Make no mistake. Whenever I find you. Seth says, love Turner as a player, but I don't think you can replace Swanson's leadership in the clubhouse. I completely agree with you. However, I would also say that as much as I agree with that statement, because he is the closest thing to Freddie they have at the moment, I look at the future, right? I don't look at right now. I don't find myself looking at the situation right now. But when I look to the future, I see a few things. I see Matt Olson's going to be around for another 7 years. I see Riley's going to be around for another 10. Michael Harris is going to be around for number 10. Ronald Acuna is going to be around for another 9. Ozzie Albies is around for another 5 or 6 years. I mean, there's so many different guys that I look at and I say, well, look, I mean, if we lose Swanson, yeah, it's going to stink. It's going to have a bad taste, right? But at the end of the day, there's enough team chemistry in just those guys I just mentioned that I think you'd be able to carry that on. I don't think it would be something where, we're screwed. I don't think it would be that scenario. I think, in fact, it would honestly allow other young stars to come to the forefront. And I think that's the way you have to look at it, right? Like, when Dansby came up, there was nothing. There was Freeman, and that was it in 2016. There wasn't a lot going on. And, now there is a lot going on. It's different. It's a lot different. And I think that we have enough young stars, enough young talent that, I just don't think that, you might have a slight hiccup like the Braves did at the beginning of the year this year, but I don't think it would be as drastic as we presume it would be. Christine brings up a good point. Keep Swanson and get a left fielder. This team will get better. I agree. I think left is definitely a target this offseason. And whether or not you get rid of Rosario or whatever the case may be, if you want a solidified left fielder, that's fine. But I don't think Duvall is the answer by himself. I think if a lot of people have brought up re-signing Duvall, and look, I for one am a huge Duvall fan. However, I don't think Duvall is the answer by himself. We all know that the splits kill him, on the righty side. They just do. And I think if you kept Rosario or got another lefty bat, that exclusively Grossman comes to mind that can hit left-handed pitching or right-handed pitching rather, then I think you'd be good with Duvall. A lot of people are going to want to talk about that. A lot of people have brought up the idea about Jock Peterson. That's probably our next video. I wasn't going to tell you, but since you brought it up, he's probably our next video. Could the Braves reunite with Jock Peterson? And I think that is interesting. I think that's certainly a topic that we can discuss. Left field is certainly a target, again, but I would also say it is a target after the shortstop situation. That's kind of where I'm at. Like I think the shortstop situation has to be dealt with before you deal with anything else. And that's just the way I feel about it at the moment. Brett Walters, if I'm going to have to pay $30 million, I'm going with Turner or Correa. That's kind of my point, right? Like if Swanson is demanding Trea Turner money, I would rather you just go pay Trea Turner. And a lot of people are not going to like that. I mean, they're not, right? A lot of people are going to look at that and say, oh, how could you say that, right? Swanson's been around so long. But again, it comes down to money. If Trea Turner wants $30 million and he gets paid $30 million, I probably look at Swanson and I go 22, right? That's about where I'm at. And a lot of people aren't going to like that. But that's where I'm at. If you're demanding Trea Turner money, your name needs to be Trea Turner. That's the way I feel about it. And Correa is the flip to that. Correa might get paid more than Turner this year. I don't know. But I look at it and I say, if you're demanding that kind of money, you have to have those numbers. And career-wise, Swanson does not. All credit to his year this year, it's not. There has to be more than that for me, and I would say for most GMs. Let's see. Captain Spartan brings up a good point. I should have mentioned this. Thank you for reminding me. Don't forget about Vaughn Grissom. We don't have to get an outside guy if we can't keep Swanson. Vaughn Grissom is certainly a candidate. However, I would argue that he's not MLB ready. He came up this year. He had a great start to his season. We all know he had a homer at Fenway Park in his first game. He had great stats early on. We were all feeling this guy, right? We were all with it, and I was with it. But he fell off at the end of the season for a reason. It's because he has not had a lot of time in the minors. This is a guy with loads of potential. No doubt about it. Loads of potential there. But also keep in mind that this guy is a few years away in reality. And if you get a solidified shortstop, I mean, look, guys, they elected to go with Orlando Arcia for a reason, right? And I'm not knocking Vaughn Grissom. I think Vaughn Grissom has all the potential there. Again, I just don't think he's ready to take the spot of Dansby Swanson. I think that is a lot to ask. And look, I think Vaughn Grissom has a very bright future. I think he's got a bright future, hopefully in a Braves uniform, wherever that may be. I've suggested the idea of moving him to left field possibly, if it came down to it. But I'm at the point now where I look at his year in completion and I say, well, towards the end there, they started figuring him out. And similar things have happened to other players before. We all saw how long it took Riley to really come into his own, right? And it wouldn't surprise me if at some point the league figures out Michael Harris. But I look at Vaughn Grissom and I say, well, as good as he was, I just don't think the Braves are set on, all right, Swanson, we're going to let you walk. It's Grissom's job. I don't think it's that far deep yet. Grissom's a great player, but I don't think he's ready for that just yet. And that's just me. I can easily be proven wrong, but I don't think so. Let's see. Oren Griswold, how about a few free agent targets outside of our current players? Nola and Rodon raised my attention. We're going to talk about those guys in other videos. I don't want to get too deep of it here. I got to spread my content, guys. It's the off season. I would say this. Yes. If you gave me that option, yes, either one. But we'll talk about it more in depth later. Let's see. JL says Jock was the leader last year. I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, he wrote that. We all know how big of a deal he was in 2021. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that at all. Ozzy is your leader. Yeah, I don't disagree. I think there's a lot of leaders, right? I think a lot of people, look at it and say, all right, well, who is it? Who's the leader? And you can't really do that. I really think it's more so of a who's the leader today, right? With this current team, I think it's more of who is the leader today. This is interesting, and I might do a video on this. Richard Davis, who always likes to give me comments, I always appreciate him, says sign Kimbrel to a 1 year, $1 million deal. I don't hate that. And yeah, I don't hate that. I think that's tough. I don't hate that at all. I think that getting Kimbrel to sign a $1 million deal would be tough. I would love for it to happen, to bring him home to Atlanta. And I think you're taking a chance on a guy who's potentially a future Hall of Famer. I don't hate that. I think the Braves are definitely going to target bullpen. I don't know that Kimbrel is going to be the guy they go to, but I think they're definitely going to target bullpen. So it's not the worst idea in the world. Certainly not the worst one I've heard. Let's see. A lot of you guys are on the we need Swanson train. I'm with it. I really am. But I also look at it and I say, well, we needed Freeman too, right? So I think you have to look at it in as a whole. And I try to give you guys the most complete package of information along with the most, how do I put this? The most conservative opinion. I try to give you the one with the most this is the one that I think makes the most sense, right? We don't want to just go crazy. I want to give you something a little bit more laid back and something that I think could actually happen. I don't want to give you, trade so-and-so, trade so-and-so, trade so-and-so. We're going to bring them all in, right? But I'll give you my thoughts on everybody. And there's never really a terrible option when you guys bring them to me. There's never a huge, what if we went and got Bogarts, right? God forbid we wind up with Bogarts. We're sitting here talking about Trea Turner or Dansby. Let's just say that happened. I wouldn't be mad at it. I wouldn't be mad at it at all. Especially if Dansby had elected to go elsewhere and that's what we brought back. Would not be mad at it at all. But, we'll have to see. All right, a lot of trade suggestions coming up. I don't know how many of these I'm going to answer, but I'll answer a few. Richard Davis, this is kind of where I'm going with. I'm with you on this, Richard. I already kind of read it. I'm with you on it. If you sign Dansby, put a trade package of Grissom and a couple other prospects together for Brian Reynolds of Pittsburgh. Now, here's the thing. I'm with you on the trade package. I'm completely with you on the trade package. I'm with you completely. Vaughn Grissom, as great as he is, if you sign Dansby back, you're set, right? I mean, you got to get a left fielder. Vaughn's not necessarily that guy. But I'm with you. The thing I would tell you is Brian Reynolds has been so off limits for Pittsburgh. And I don't know that they're going to look at a couple of prospects and go, yeah, that's what we need, especially with, the excitement of O'Neal Cruz this year. I don't know that they're going to lay off. They're going to trade Brian Reynolds away. I don't think that's in their motive right now. I mean, he's been so unreachable. No matter what trade package people have thrown at them lately in the past few years, they just have not let off that guy. When we got Richard Rodriguez a few years ago, I really thought that the Braves were going to go hard for Brian Reynolds. I still believe that they did. I just don't think he's within reach, no matter what the trade package is. I think it's a little bit out of touch. So I'm with you there. I would also add to that trade package outside of just prospects. I will, and instead of Brian Reynolds, hear me out for a second. Sign Dansby back. Trade package, Grissom and Ozuna and, I don't know, Grossman, Rosario, whoever you want to throw in there. I don't know just yet. This is just something that's been coming to mind, but certainly Grissom, Ozuna, etc. And I would go for a pitcher. I would go for a pitcher, and I think that would be great. And you get them to eat your salary, you give them a couple prospects, and you move on to it. Blake Newsome, yeah, exactly. Pirates are close to a rebuild. They're not going to let loose of Brian Reynolds just yet. Let's see. Another crazy idea. Nearly impossible, says Brandon Edwards. Trade the farm for Ozuna and Rosario, re-sign Dansby, and sign for Turner left field. So trade the entire prospects. Turner for left field is a stretch. I don't think he does that. And I don't know that you necessarily have to trade the farm for Rosario and Ozuna. I think Rosario you can keep because you're not paying him very much. He's only making like $9 million this year. That's not not great, but not like terrible. I also think it's a little unfair for Rosario to be characterized as he's been. I mean, you're talking about the guy who we all know what he did in the NLCS. Certainly had a terrible year this year, sidelined with eyesight problems, and I don't think they ever really went away completely. Didn't have the year we were hoping for. But Ozuna is certainly a problem. I think, we found out the other day that the Braves tried to trade Ozuna, didn't work. I think that's a priority as well in the offseason. I think, you just have to see what happens. I think if you can throw a package together of Ozuna and Vaughn Grissom for a pitcher, I think that would be ideal if you sign Dansby back. But that's, it is what it is. Oren Griswold, all right. If we whiff on Dansby and Turner and decide to give Arcia the reins until Grissom is Major League ready, obviously not the ideal scenario, but it's creeping into mind. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think if it did happen, it would be a very short amount of time. And I mean like until the All-Star break. Like I don't trade deadline. I think at the trade deadline, they're going to have to make a move. As much as I like Arcia, as much as I like Grissom, I don't trust that combination. I think they're going to have to go for that. I think, priority-wise, obviously Dansby. I think priority-wise, shortstop's number one, and it's not even close. Shortstop's number one. I look at pitching after that, trading Ozuna and that. Look, I don't look at who we need to trade. I look at what we need to get. I go shortstop. I go pitching, and I mean maybe a fifth starter, a legit fifth starter, and I also look at the bullpen. I think if you can trade Ozuna for one of those, I think we're good. If they eat some of the salary and we get a decent bullpen arm, we're good. And to accompany that, we're going to have to make a trade with a prospect, whether that be Vaughn Grissom or someone else. The only one that I consider completely off limits is Michael Harris at this point. That's the one. I mean, and he signed for 10 years, so that's obvious. And obviously Strider, anybody that's signed at this point is off limits. The Braves have enough to win right now. No doubt about it, they have enough to win. But I think ultimately it's what we need and not what we need to get rid of is the way you need to look at it. The old man says, if not Reynolds, maybe get Santander from the Orioles. Don't hate it. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either, to tell you the truth. I don't know. I don't know. I have to kind of look a little bit more deep. Vision says, hey, Tyler, I'm late coming in. Heard Kimbrel mention. Did he put up numbers recently like he used to? No. No. I would love him to get a shot just so I could hear Welcome to the Jungle one more time at Truist Park. But no, he hadn't put up numbers. Basically, the way he was mentioned was like for a 1 year, $1 million deal just to give him a shot. I don't think he's going to make that low. I think he's probably going to ask for more. And you look at his career resume, he might be able to get it. Too much says, what about Anderson and Conforto? I don't know which Anderson you're talking about, but Conforto I can talk about. Conforto I look at and I say, well, he didn't get signed this year, right? And I'll tell you why, because a lot of people brought this up earlier in the year. Conforto, I think he wanted like $20 million or something like that. I think he was making like $20 million for the year prior to for 2021. Let me look up his stats for a second. Sorry. Michael Conforto has been brought up so much. I should know this. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. I didn't want to get it wrong. In 2021, he had like a 232 batting average. Okay. Now batting average isn't everything, but he only had 14 homers. So when you only have 14 homers, batting average and on base percentage is really what I look at. 344 on base, but that batting average is something serious. He struck out a lot, and his last salary, if I could see, it's not on here, but I believe he was making like over what I would be willing to pay for him. So that's kind of my thing on Conforto, is that. In terms of Ian Anderson, I look at it and I say, well, I don't know where he's at, right? Same with Mike Soroka. We don't know where these guys are at. We all, of course, root for them to be a great starter ready to go. AA has more faith in Soroka than he does Ian Anderson. Based on his recent comments, he thinks Soroka is going to be a big part of 2023. We all hope so, but we don't know. I mean, not yet. I mean, he's still recovering from an elbow injury on top of the Achilles. That's just Soroka. In terms of Ian Anderson, He was sent down and never came back this year. So we really just don't know when it comes to those guys. And that's kind of what makes teams go, okay, well, if we don't know, then maybe we just need to go for another option. And look, I want Soroka to return just as much as you do. So I think that we're going to have to, again, wait and see. Yeah, okay, so Conforto, okay, $20 million. Yeah, I'm not paying Conforto $20 million for a .232 batting average. .255 career. I don't think that's good enough for $20 million. I'm sorry, not if Dansby's making 10 on a one-year deal. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. Yeah, Lori Lee says, I remember categorizing Tookie as untouchable. Learn my lesson. Yeah, you don't want to categorize anybody as untouchable too early. Tookie was never one of those guys for me. I thought, a couple years ago when he came up again and he was pitching well, I thought, well, maybe he's turned a corner. Never really added up. I remember thinking that I remember all those prospects back in the day that were just untouchable. Anybody remember Colby Allard? Right? And he got traded. I don't remember what we got back for him, but there's a lot of guys that we thought were untouchable. Sean Newcomb at one time was untouchable. Mike Fultonevich was untouchable. There's been a lot of guys. Chris Kaysen brings up a good point. Do the Braves keep Raisel Iglesias? I think without a doubt they keep Raisel Iglesias. He signed for a few more years, believe it or not. He was on a 4-year deal with the Angels. If I'm not mistaken, the Braves have him for another 3. So they don't have to do anything to keep Raisel. The thing that they would have to do to get rid of him is to trade him, which I think is highly unlikely. It wouldn't surprise me if he's your closer this year. I think the real debate comes with Kenley, because we all know, how he was this year. We all know, we all know that. Oh me, it's just. I like Kenley. I think Kenley can perform. I think he can do well, but. I look at it, I look in a mirror, and I say, was it $18 million worth? When I have Raisel Iglesias in the waiting, I don't know. I don't think so. And I think if he's willing to take less money, then yeah, maybe a Braves return. If he's not, maybe a Los Angeles Dodgers return. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Okay, a lot of you guys are commenting kind of the same thing. We're going to wrap it up here in about 4 or 5 minutes. Wanted to let you guys know, I'm going to announce something. I can't do it today, but I can do it probably over the weekend, maybe in the next week. I have a big announcement that I wish I could do today. I can't, but what I'll tell you is this. Social media. Follow me here. If you want to know the big announcement, follow me there. I'm doing it this week. I cannot do it until then. It is something big. It's something that I'm looking forward to telling you guys. I wish I could do it right now. But follow there. You guys just follow there. Follow me at BubblegumJesus on Twitter and Instagram. It is pretty big news for the future of myself and, of course, future of this channel. So please make sure to follow me there. I was really looking forward to announce it today. I got told not yet, but soon. So make sure to follow me there. And, of course, always appreciate the support. Really do. Thank you for that. We're going to probably wrap it up here in just a second. So thank you guys for bringing it in tonight. I'm sorry. I wish I could do it. It's not my fault. I already see the comments. I see it. I wish I could tell you. Okay. I'll give you that. I will give you that. This is the last thing for tonight. Then I got to go. The story of why I'm Bubblegum Jesus. This was commented. Since I can't tell you the big news, I'll tell you this. When I was, how do I start the story? It's been a while since I've told this story. When I was 12 years old, I go to church here in Columbus. When I was 12 years old, I've gone to the same church my whole life. This is back when I had a buzz cut and played baseball. I was in a church play. I was Jesus. It was on Easter. It was Jesus raising from the dead. And it was real dramatic. It wasn't really like a thing you talked in. It was something that, you basically just acted out during like a song. Okay, not my proudest moment, but hear me out. Anyway, I was Jesus, and right before said play, my best buddy in the whole wide world, Nolan Miller, gave me about 3 pieces of Hubba Bubba gum. And look, I'm sure you've all chewed bubba gum. If you've never chewed Hubba Bubba, you don't know how thick that is, much less 3 pieces of this. So anyway, I stand up, biggest part of the whole shindig, and I open my arms up to accept everybody in, and the whole time I'm just, the name stuck. Bubblegum Jesus was forever born. That has been my Instagram handle since I was about 13. It may change soon. Can't really tell you why, but it may change soon. But that is why I'm Bubblegum Jesus. So there you go. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys for listening to the story. Thank you, Blake, for asking. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for tonight, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed the story. And of course, make sure to tune in to the Instagram and Twitter. Make sure to do that. And of course, we're going to have more content here. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time right here at On Deck. Talk to you later, guys.